Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of things that I feel really excited about and really proud of because they kind of serve particular needs or communities. But Checker Hall is definitely like the coolest thing that I've done. It's just vibrant and alive. The design is so beautiful. The food is delicious and playful. The service is friendly and comfortable. We have, live jazz multiple times a week. We have this integration and relationship with, the music venue, the lodge room. So there's just waves of culture that continue to lap over the restaurant
Yeah.
and make it a really unique and special place within Los Angeles. I think that like what's going to make this neighborhood continue to be vibrant and staying, it's independent businesses. It's not, seeing, tons of these chains pop in. We're in a difficult time to like operate and keep the doors open of restaurants. Restaurants can be and continue to be cornerstones of community and bringing like a place to gather, a place to learn, a place to break bread, and a staple of a neighborhood.
Today on the LA Food Podcast, I'm your host, Lucas Servodio, feeling a little like Seth Cohen in the OC because I've got summer on the brain. Things are starting to heat up in SoCal, dear listener, but this episode is bringing the heat in a different way. Gabe Kennedy is the all-star chef behind Highland Park's Checker Hall. He joins us today to tell us his high-octane journey, which includes winning Anthony Bourdain's competition show, The Taste, co-founding one of the hottest plant-based supplement companies on the market, and uprooting his life in New York to relocate to LA and grace our city with one of the most fun dining experiences I've had in a long time in Highland Park's Checker Hall. One conversation with Gabe and you're immediately hooked. You can just really tell how much this guy cares, not just about making delicious food, but about doing things that have real meaning and thought behind them. Personally, I'm stoked to have Checker Hall in my backyard, but I'm telling ya, they've got a chicken schnitzel, among other things, that is 100% worth driving across town for. Not to mention the historic building, the fantastic cocktails, the music venue next door. It's one of the most fun evenings you can have in our fair city, and I think you'll be making a res right after you hear Gabe talk about it. But first, Father Saul and I break down the things that caught my eye this week. There's the Infatuation's lackluster review of Vespertine, an intriguing, albeit quite cringy taste article on the best restaurant in town, and a discussion on whether shoppy shops are good, bad, or somewhere in between for neighborhoods. Of course, the world's 50 best dropped their list mere hours after Saul and I were done recording, so we won't talk about that this week, but spoiler alert, no LA restaurants were included. But we don't care, because without further ado, let's chow down. Dear listener, I made a deal with my wife. She let me start a food podcast and eat ungodly amounts of noodles, pizza, sandwiches, and more under two conditions. One is that I never utter her name. The other is that I find ways to be healthy outside of my work in food. Being the fantastic partner I am, I found a few ways to up my health game. I exercise almost every day, I try to sneak in salads for lunch whenever I can, and I only ever snack on healthy foods. The macadamia nut has become an essential part of my daily routine with the best omega-6 to 3 ratios in the nut game, 8 times better than pistachios and 20 times better than cashews. At houseofmacadamias.com, they've got a bunch of different macadamia products that you can enjoy, like savory and sweet snack packs and chocolate-covered snack bars. One of the problems with macadamias I've found is that they can be expensive, but I'm solving this for you, dear listener, because as of today, all you've got to do is head to houseofmacadamias.com and use code LAFOOD to get a 10% discount on a healthy snack that also happens to be delicious. So what are you waiting for? Head to www.houseofmacadamias.com/discount/LAFood and go nuts. Welcoming back to the pod, a man who's going to need your money-saving tips, dear listener, because he now owes me a dinner at Vespertine after losing yet another bet. It's Father Saul. Father Saul, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I'm surviving. it's I did not realize the level of financial commitment that Vespertine required when we made that bet. I just want to do like the reason we made Vespertine the stakes of this Champions League bet that we made was because it was Jonathan Gould's last number one restaurant. And then I look it up, and the infatuation helpfully tells me, oh, it's going to be expensive as fuck. So that was fun to learn.
The best part is like you're the one who recommended it.
I know. I recommended it more from like the narrative / like symbolic place, but of course it turns out it's a financial punishment as well, which is fitting, which is fine.
You know what I love most about having won this bet is that, listener, I had Real Madrid in the final and he had Dortmund. We got to make those picks based on the fact that I had won like all of the previous rounds and therefore I had first choice. And you'd have to be an idiot not to pick Real Madrid in the Champions League final. But the best part was that Saul's team got so close to scoring on so many occasions that it just gave him the right amount of hope that was eventually crushed.
I knew it was going to go down like that too, right? Like we were literally texting and I was like, it can't be easy enough that you just beat me. I have to have the hope. Like I have to have the idea, because going into the game, I'm like, easy, it's over. It's fine. Let's book the reservation under my name, whatever. And the game turns on and I start thinking to myself, I could steal this. But of course it's the year of losing and I'm not going to steal it. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I like, my approach to the year of losing is a war of attrition. So now I'm just like proposing bets that I could possibly win one day.
Yeah.
It's like you and Sammy and I'm just like, let's bet. We can win. I can eventually win. I will eventually win one of these bets and the year of losings will be over.
Was the Euro bet your idea? I'm forgetting.
Yeah. No, I thought you were going to comment on it. I proactively reached out to you both and was like, let's bet on this, baby. Let's do it. And
very much immersion therapy at this point.
I'm trying to get it all out the way. Either it's going to work and I'll break through, or I'm just going to lose everything this year and we're going to go back to my winning ways in 2025.
It'll never happen. This is your life now. Look, you brought it up, but the Infatuation this week, Silvio Martins of the Infatuation headed to Vespertine and did a little preview for us of what to expect.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like Silvio liked his experience that much.
Yeah, no, it was a negative review. I understand where it was coming from. I actually went back after we looked at this review and read Jonathan Gould's reasoning for putting it number one, and it totally, like, even within ranking it highly, Jay Gould was like, look, this is just not going to be for, like, it's a very specific experience and a very weird a thing, kind of like idea restaurant, and Jonathan Gould's estimation, it was doing what it wanted to do perfectly. It makes perfect sense that the Infatuation would be like, hey, don't go on a date night and spend $1,000 at Vespertine. I think that's a reasonable thing to say. I'm curious. I'm really interested to see what our experience will be.
So, listener, he gave it a 6.3, which is pretty much like a big fuck you in Infatuation terms, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say, yeah, he wasn't totally sold. The reasoning you said is exactly that, Saul. He said that for basically $1,000 for two people, the food is just not delicious. The exact words he used are, quote unquote, unpleasant to consume, and, quote unquote, most of the savory courses don't live up to the pomp with which they're delivered. I gotta say, the dishes he described don't sound particularly appetizing, like an oyster goo and gelatinized smoked mussel, but I just think it's gonna taste so sweet knowing you're picking up the bill.
That's the main thing. So it's funny. It's almost fitting that the Infatuation panned them, because one, it's fitting for a punishment for me to go, and two, I actually like that that you might not have the best time, right? Even if I'm putting the bill, it's like, at least I have that. At least it's not the best thing. But I know I'm still really curious, and I want to see what Jay Gould saw in it.
Well, one thing to remember is that the Infatuation famously also doesn't really like Poltergeist, which is one of our favorite restaurants. I think they gave Diego a 6.3 or a 6.4 as well. And the reasoning was pretty much the same. It's like, if you're going to go out on a date or you're going to go out to dinner with a buddy and you've got a chunk of change to spend, maybe don't spend it here if you're looking for something delicious, spend it here if you're maybe looking for something experimental, if you want to get weird. But in our experience, we fucking love Poltergeist. So who's to say we won't love this too?
Yeah. And the Poltergeist review is a travesty, right? The weird thing, I get where they're coming from, but like I really liked when we spoke to Brant 2 years ago, I think, or last year at some point.
Well, last year, buddy, we haven't been around that long.
It feels so long ago. When he was like, we try to gauge how well the restaurant does what it's trying to do. In both the case of Poltergeist and I expect Vespertine, they probably are doing what they're trying to do pretty well. But in their cases, the Infatuation seems to be making an exception, where they're less judging the restaurant on, quote unquote, how well they're executing their concept, and more from like the consumer perspective of like, hey, look, this is going to be $1,000 at Vespertine, and it's going to be weird. Like, with that in mind, we are not going to like recommend it to our readers, right?
Yeah, I think the meeting its assignment criteria that Brant laid out is nice to have, not necessarily exactly how they do it every time.
Yeah,
Because, for example, we talked about it on the pod when he was on last week, but he reviewed Sir Restaurant and Lounge, Lisa Vanderpump's restaurant,
right.
and he gave it a 3.8. But that restaurant's assignment is just to like serve pomp and circumstance for Vanderpump Rules fans. And honestly, it does that like 8.7 out of 10 or something,
Yeah.
To me, they just seem really protective of people's money. And I think what they don't want is like for
Yeah.
people to go out and spend a bunch of money because the infatuation told them this is worth it and then be pissed.
Right.
And I get that. I mean,
Right.
I would feel bad too if I was in their shoes.
Yeah, it makes total sense. It seems, I am sure this will be a completely fair review based on our experience, but like, let's go check it out. Let's see what the deal is.
I just want some like, sous vide reindeer penis or something like that. Like I want something really out of the box when we go.
Oh, okay. You can eat all the dick you want at Vespertine. I'm sure.
That's a request, Chef Khan, okay? That's a request, a special request from the LA Food Pod. No, I say that because isn't that like a famous dish from Noma in Copenhagen?
Oh, I didn't know that. No. Well, maybe it is. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
I might be wrong about the anatomy of which part of the reindeer, but it's something along those lines. Now, speaking of the best restaurant in town, I sent you an article from a publication called Taste, which I hadn't really heard of too much before like last year, but seems to be all over my Instagram feed all the time now. They actually published that article we spoke about on Trader Joe's and whether Trader Joe's is Satan, basically. Are you a fan of Taste?
Well, I mean, I think I've only really read the two articles you shared for me. I was about to say, like, seems to be some interesting coverage and or perspectives in Taste. So I'm down to check it out more. I should maybe more intentionally seek it out. But the Trader Joe's article was like really well done, and this was interesting.
Yeah. So, future friend of the pod, Jason Stewart from How Long Gone, writes for it sometimes. So I have checked it out.
Oh,
We can take issue with the quality of his writing, but certainly he has takes to share. And he actually did a re-review of Horses, like after the cat scandal,
oh,
which was pretty interesting. But yeah, Taste,
right.
I appreciate Taste because they seem to like invest in sort of like long form, kind of out of the box food journalism. And I think that is something we don't get too much of. Maybe the New Yorker does a little bit of that with Helen Rosner every once in a while. But this is really kind of a unique thing.
Mhm.
And I always get excited when I start to see people share Taste articles on social media, because usually there's like a hint of controversy to it. It's like, people are like, okay, I either really strongly agree with this or I fucking hate this. And this article definitely, I think, elicited some of that chat. So basically, Priyanka Matu wrote a piece titled "The Best Restaurant in Town," and in it, what she's doing is it's almost like a creative writing assignment where every single paragraph is talking about the quote unquote best restaurant in town. Each one is a restaurant that she herself likes to frequent, but that maybe isn't like the hottest restaurant in town. It's like a kind of under the radar Indian spot. One sounds like a diner. One sounds like one is an Italian grocer. What she's really trying to get across, it seems, is that she misses a time when you could kind of just go out and explore the city without being the prisoner of what she calls well, I don't even know if she calls it this, but listification. Basically like this almost need to go to places that have been approved by food media in the form of lists. What did you think of the piece?
So so Priyanka is not a food critic, as I understand it. She's an author and a filmmaker. She has, I think, a memoir coming out, and she did this piece for Taste. I so the message of the piece I liked a lot. Right, it touches on something that we touched on very early on when we started talking, where it was like, look, we didn't say this explicitly, but the idea we were circling around was everyone like kind of gets obsessed with lists and who chooses the lists and how limiting are the lists and what does it mean for the food landscape if the same spots keep getting chosen over and over. And then there's like this dynamic of always going to the either 38 essential or infatuation top 15 hottest restaurants in a place. And what Priyanka was like making a statement on, because she didn't like was that, look, the best restaurant's the one that you build a relationship with and have memories with and have find meaning with. And the obsession with lists and recommendations from these outlets limits our open-mindedness and open-heartedness when it comes to finding those spots that quote unquote, like, we find a home with, right? Restaurants where the people know you when you walk in the door, even if it's not like a little cafe or sandwich shop or an Indian place, right? That idea resonated a lot for me. Look, the writing was pretty pretentious. Some of the stuff was like really, really cringy, but just from a fundamental idea of what she was trying to express, yeah, I mean, it's, I think, always good to have a reminder about that. And I resonated with it because I have spots in my mind that we've discussed on and off where I'm like, yeah, no, like there, I understand like the best places on like the Bestias and Bavels and all that, but the places where I actually end up eating the most and feel most at home and happy to be at in some ways are Grand Central Bakery in Seattle, where I always go get my sandwich and I walk in and they know me and we have that dynamic. And that's, I think, a cool thing to remind folks of.
So I texted you when I read the piece and I told you I hated it, and I think what I was reacting to was maybe the pretentiousness of the writing and some of those cringeworthy moments. I also think I was reacting to this notion that food media seems to be a really easy target for people right now. Like a lot of people sort of decry like food media always going to the same places. We've done it ourselves, right? Like you talk about them always sort of giving props to the same restaurants, having their darlings, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
But I've really grown tired of it, honestly, over the past year, especially as like we've seen newsrooms really suffer. And as you've seen certain people like David Chang be at the helm of going after media companies.
Mhm.
And it's just like, dude, of all the targets you can pick in food right now, food media does not seem to be the one that's most deserving or like that really is the quote unquote problem right now. But knowing that she's actually not in the food world is interesting to me. I think that it's interesting to hear an outsider's perspective of how these lists are perceived, not from people within the industry. Because I think all of the criticism I've heard is from people within the industry.
Mhm.
It's interesting to know that even people who are just looking for restaurants and whatnot and trying to like fill their weekends with fun activities are starting to have a reaction to this type of journalism. Now that I have that context, I think I have a different appreciation for this. It's almost like taking the temperature of how the general population feels on this issue of lists.
Yeah.
Because I do think it becomes such an insular, like, incestuous conversation that you kind of lose touch with. Okay, well, maybe if the people like it, that's fine. But maybe the people are growing tired of it.
Hmm. I would. That's interesting because what I would say is she isn't actually critiquing the media and the way of list. I mean, maybe in an aside way, she is the list making media enterprise of food journalism. What she's
Oh, she
critiquing is,
totally is.
well, she is, but what she's really critiquing is how people use it. She's critiquing consumers, right? She's critiquing people who like go and eat in that way and eat with like a checklist of like eater spots. I don't think it's necessarily like media should do this and not that. It's people in places should eat food in this way or explore restaurants in this way and not that way.
I think she does both. I think you're right. Like she definitely does like complain about consumer behavior. I actually really like the way she called it a quote unquote listicle driven scavenger
Mhm.
hunt
Yeah,
in
yeah,
terms of what consumers do. But she also has the part of the article where she's talking about a writer wanting to go to their editor and being like, "Hey, I want to write this story," and the editor comes back to them with,
yeah,
but
yeah.
could you make it a list because we need to drive clicks and whatnot. And it's a little bit of a vilification of this need to drive clicks in order to get readers. So she does go after both sides.
Sure.
When someone in the industry is doing that, oftentimes or a lot of times I've noticed it's because I don't know, maybe they feel hard done by being left off a list. Maybe they're part of a different publication that, like, is competing with the other publications and takes issue with how the other publication is doing things. I think you've somehow successfully managed to sway me again into into liking a piece. God.
It's just, I mean, we don't. I mean, again, the piece is the piece itself. And by the way, have you said the title? It's called the best restaurant in town on the taste. And the piece itself, like I said, is kind of like again cringeworthy at times. But again, the message is, I think, a sound one. And I like, I have restaurants in my mind. I'm curious about yours. Like, what are the when she says the best restaurants in town are the ones where you have like memories and a dynamic with the people, and like, I don't know, just more of like and an open mind, open
Yeah.
heartedness to going and exploring beyond the lists that we see potentially. I immediately think of spots, because remember too, like places that end up on lists. Sure, of course, editors and critics at these outlets go and eat the food and try it, but it does, I think, weight in some way towards the restaurants that can afford a PR team, for an example, or a restaurant group that can put itself on the map and be eaten and have a reputation that these outlets know, mean that if they put that restaurant on the list, people are going to be excited to see it, right? Like, there's something, I don't know. I feel like there's just something kind of organic and authentic about the way that she's suggesting people kind of go about trying to find places to eat that are special to them, which makes sense.
I agree with that. I actually think my opinion has shifted in terms of the whole PR like question in food. My experience has
Hmm,
been that a lot of like journalists get turned off by the restaurants that have big PR,
sure.
and I think they really do try to put in the work to sort of like level the playing field and make sure that they're not just going to places that have the PR teams that are reaching out to them. But and I'm sure like a reporter like Bill Esparza would hear your assertion of lists and be like, absolutely not having that, not having that one bit. But yeah, no, there's definitely something to that. Let me ask you, what are your quote unquote best restaurants in town?
When I read this piece, I immediately thought of the Last Drop Cafe in Claremont, which is unfortunately under new ownership. But it was a place where when I was in college, I would go to all the time, and I would get a chicken salad sandwich the same way each time. I'd walk in the door, they'd start making the sandwich, and I knew it was a family owned spot at the time. I knew the owner, I knew his dad. Like, I would just hang out and work. And like, we had a relation. I essentially had a relationship with the place, right? Hundi Kebab House, had it not closed, could have also been one of those spots, right, where it feels very special and unique and is on no lists, but I'm like bringing family there. And yeah, they didn't know me, so to speak, but it felt special in terms of the memories I was able to make there and the way I felt at home there, right? Versus, yeah, I've gone through the process of also trying to hit the listicle, right? Like, check mark. I want to check out all the spots that are in the top 10 or top 38, whatever. And it's just a different relationship.
My best restaurant in town, Open Sesame, baby.
Yeah,
Open
right.
Sesame on Beverly. Yeah. I don't think they've ever even like grazed a list by accident. But that's a restaurant that I would go to once a week, every week for years, and knew the staff, really like felt at home there. I actually took my now wife there on our first date.
No way.
And yeah, just because I was having a really bad day, honestly, and I was gonna take her to Button Mash, ironically,
Huh.
but I hadn't realized that Button Mash was closed on Mondays. And so I had to quickly pivot, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take her to a place that feels like home. It's gonna be awesome. The staff are gonna be like, yo, what's up, Luca? And I'm gonna look like cool. And we went there. Turns out she thought it was incredibly cheesy that the staff knew me. So I'm not sure that worked in my favor. But hey, we're married now.
There you go. Worked out.
Hey, that was like a really heartfelt discussion, man. We're not used to that on the pod.
I was feeling it. I was feeling this article. I was so surprised when you said you hated it. Again, I know exactly why you did.
Yeah.
Like, there were several sentences that were like my favorite sentences in the piece, followed by a sentence that made me want to like kill myself. But thank you to Priyanka for writing it. And yeah, we also, I just want to say last thing. We shouldn't forget that what this piece is trying to reflect is kind of what we were trying to reflect when we started,
Yeah.
right? Like, and it's important to be reminded of that.
Yeah. Well, it's the unlistables too. It's like
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
lot. It's a lot of what we try to talk about for sure. Look, speaking of places and spots, and I'll say neighborhoods that are having no trouble being in the media right now, there's a new opening in the neighborhood of Melrose Hill. Now, we've spoken about Melrose Hill before because there's been a lot of development there. There have been new restaurants like Etra, Cafe Telegrama, Kuya Lord, and it's been spearheaded by Zach Lasry,
Hmm.
who is related to a certain Mark Lasry of Milwaukee Bucks ownership fame.
Hmm.
The latest opening is a grocery store, neighborhood market, and cafe shop called LA Grocery and Cafe. It's replacing a store called Produce for Less. It's kind of the latest in a lot of these types of shops that are opening around town. These sort of like fancy grocers that are selling, yes, farm fresh produce, but they're also selling your tinned fish, your like Graza olive oils, your Lamora frozen pizzas in the freezer aisle. We have a ton in our neighborhood. There's Sua Super Red over in Larchmont. John and Vinny's has Cookbook. You're seeing all these kinds of stores open all over the place. I really don't know what to think. My gut tells me there's something fishy happening whenever one of these opens, meaning in terms of what it means for the neighborhood. But I also can't really ever put my finger on why. Ultimately, a lot of times they're bringing a produce option to the neighborhood. It's a small business. They are bringing employment. And I got to say, LA Grocery and Cafe is saying all the right things, right? They recognize that they're moving into a majority Latino population that has a history of predominantly HUD housing. They're trying to meet the needs of the neighborhood by saying they're going to offer quote unquote affordable produce and hilariously a rotating selection of 20 wines under $25 because, that's what we consider cheap wine these days. They're going to hire locally. They said 25% of their staff is going to reside in the immediate neighborhood. And then once their application is approved, they're also going to accept EBT. So they're
Hmm.
trying to do the right thing, but still coming in and replacing produce for less or whatever it was called. It definitely speaks to the changing face of the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's self-aware gentrification
Mm.
is the way I would almost kind of put it. And there's like the cynical side of me. The reason why I find this interesting is because yes, we talked about Melrose Hill before, and it seems like Lasry is doing one or two. Like he wants the benefits and the impact that, of course, owning property in a place that he's developing, all the financial benefits that could have, while at least in word really trying to speak to doing it differently
Mhm.
here in Melrose Hill versus it's been done elsewhere, which is cool and like a lot of respects. And like you said, they seem to be trying to, put intentional measures in place to make sure they're not disrupting things around them too much. But at the same time, like it's just like an interesting experiment of like, is there any sort of, is there such thing as like quote unquote like a clean
Yeah.
gentrification? And like it's just so I just find it interesting from like a public communications perspective about how aware he is specifically and this initiative, whatever this project is, in terms of knowing what they're doing, knowing what people are going to say
Yeah.
about it, and trying to get ahead of it.
Dude, that's exactly, I think, why this. I think you've articulated why this doesn't sit well with me. And I think it's because I've seen this happen again and again around town. For example, like USC, when it opened its village, it was very aware of the types of critiques it was going to be getting because it was going to be displacing, I believe it was a superior grocer at the time, which was, very
Mhm.
much serving the local community, and they replaced it with a Trader Joe's. Like it was that kind of thing, and they
Right.
did all of the same thing where they're like, we're going to hire locally in the community, we're going to be accepting EBT, et cetera, et cetera. I think the reason it sits poorly with me is because there is an element of just check the box CYA PR with it.
Yeah.
Like that is the most cynical interpretation for sure. And I think it really just, let's see how they carry things through. Let's see how things progress, right? But even the promise of hiring locally, like we know how hard it is to get labor in LA
Hmm.
these days. You're telling me that they're always going to have 25% of people from the neighborhood? Like probably not, that live immediately there. Also, like the rents are going to be going up around there and the neighborhood itself is going to
That's right.
change, and what it means to hire locally is going to change dramatically too. So, I think as consumers, it's nice to hear these kinds of things, but I do think we shouldn't just like swallow it whole.
It seems good that at least people are saying and or possibly doing things to like address what they know are concerns when a place starts to get developed. I feel good about that. I think I appreciate that he's even putting in the effort to say, hey, look, this is something that we know like has impacts in this way, XXX, but doesn't change what could ultimately happen. I don't know. I mean, like, look, people get to get to buy property and decide what they want to do with it, and it's not necessarily his responsibility to do any of this, right? Be aware of it in any way. So I think it's cool that he's at least attempting it, and we'll see as time passes what the reality ends up being
Yeah.
of this. I just saw it. It was like interesting. We've talked about like how bad landlords, right, and how negative that could be on a space. I think it's good to at least have a property owner who is,
Yeah.
certainly yes, like has a particular vision for this neighborhood that doesn't necessarily match how it currently looks, and keeping it that way, but also wants to, I don't know, find some ways to, I don't know, like either maintain it or maintain a gradual transition. Maybe I'm being too optimistic here. I don't know, but it's more than what we've seen elsewhere, at least.
Yeah. Well, do you yourself patronize or shop at places like these? Do you have these up in Seattle?
I think we do. There's a spot called Conan Steiner, which I think kind of matches this. They're called shoppy shops. Apparently, I
Yeah.
didn't know
Shop
this. Yeah,
shops.
yeah. I think I'm a big fan of them, frankly, as a gentrifying millennial, right? A professional middle class, whatever. Like this is speaking to me, right? But so I'm a fan. I don't go there as like my go to. Like I just not
Yeah.
like my number one. Although if it was on the corner of a block that I was nearby, I'm sure I'd go more.
Dude, I go like way too much, honestly. For the high horse I was just on, like I go way too much. There's a few different ones. There's the main one I frequent is called Cookbook, and it has a few different locations.
Right.
I honestly I don't even like know that I feel great about Cookbook. I've heard like mixed things about their business practices too, but
Hmm.
it's super convenient. I think in
Yeah.
this age we do live in convenience is priority a lot of the times. And if I'm like working hard during the day, have a bunch of stuff to do, and all I have time for is like a really quick prepared sandwich from the case that I don't have to wait for, that I'm going to pay a cool $15, no tip or tax because it's a shoppy shop, not a restaurant, you know?
Right.
I'm just going to do it, and it's good. The quality is good. It's delicious. Honestly, they kind of turned me on to the turkey sandwich. Like, yeah, so, like, feats, doing physical feats. So I frequent it more than I would care to admit. So I'm torn on this one. I really am. I just think, like, it does feel like the inevitable progression of our neighborhoods. I just think, like, before we, like, give this guy the keys to the city because he's gonna be accepting EBT, like, let's just realize that he knows what he's doing too.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, glad we solved that one. Well, you sent me an article, and I found it like moderately interesting, but I want to hear why you found it interesting. And it was in the Washington Post, and it was about why restaurants are so loud. So, would you like to tell me and our listeners why we should give this article a chance?
What I would say is it's less about the article, which is interesting and really sort of nerdy and technical, where a food critic and an acoustics expert and academic and the author all go together to restaurants and kind of just gauge how loud the restaurants are, what how noise impacts people, like impacts their health, which I was like a little bit less sort of intrigued by, but just generally the idea that like I have increasingly in my maybe progressively older age been frustrated at going to restaurants where I can't even hear the person across from me. And I was like, whoa, this article is really diving deep on like what that means and what it looks like and why it's hard to manage. I was in Concord, Massachusetts, like a week ago, like last weekend, and we went to a spot called 80th Row, which was like a great dinner. I went with Emily and our parents, and there was no music in the background, and then we were literally just like, it was just in a space that was nicely designed and quiet, and we were able to talk easily the whole time, and I loved it. And I just like, I also like to go try to work outside of my apartment, and everywhere I try to go work, like if whether it's a restaurant or a coffee shop or like a brewery, just so loud. What are we doing here? Like
Yeah.
let's I feel like this idea that and the WAPO food critic apparently rates in his reviews for restaurants, rates how loud they are. Actually, like
Yeah.
speaks to like the noise level.
Robert Sitzema, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just like a relevant thing that I found interesting.
It is actually interesting when you put it that way. I don't really pay any attention to how loud restaurants are when I go. Like I don't care. Like I just am like, if loudness suits the vibe, then I'm fine with it. You know what I mean? Like if it feels like a loud poppin' restaurant, then I kind of want it to be loud, you know?
Yeah.
If it's a spot where I'm like, okay, this is a chill bar, like, like near the ocean or something like that, and I'm here to have a conversation with a friend, then yes, I appreciate them turning the music down a few decibels. But by the way, it's not just music discussed in the article. It is like the construction of the actual dining room and
Mhm.
how sound travels in it. And I found that to be interesting too. I mean, from a restaurant design perspective, the thing that like rang true is like because of like modern dining trends of us wanting more sort of minimalist spaces that don't have like padding and walls or like booths and stuff like that. We've just kind of like gravitated towards having louder restaurants because those are
Yeah.
spaces that are naturally going to be louder because there's fewer things to absorb sound. So I think maybe I'm just used to it. I do think though that the louder the spot, the better you're going to think the food is.
Ooh, that's an interesting take. I guess to me, ultimately, I just want to know. I feel like I like the idea that
Yeah.
reviewers, whether it's the Infatuation, whoever, please start putting noise levels into reviews so we know what to walk into. I've started when I've made plans with friends even and colleagues, like they want to go. They're like specifically have asked me, can you find a restaurant that's not too loud?
No, it's interesting, especially for, restaurant designers or people who are interested in that listening. We'll definitely post it in the show notes. But to, put a pin in it, the reason I think the food tastes better is because when you're being deprived of your other senses, like you're being deprived of your hearing,
Sure, yeah, yeah.
like, and I think that also got me thinking, like, why have restaurants been traditionally dimly lit too? Well, they're trying to, maybe they're trying to
Oh,
up
yeah,
your, sense, like your taste sense so that you just focus on food. It's all a
maybe.
scam, bro.
The ultimate here is that I've never been to one of these, but like those like completely dark
Yeah.
restaurants where you just eat in pitch black. That's the thing I want to check out.
Would you do that?
Oh, absolutely, I
Yeah.
would. I'd be curious like how it actually changes the eating experience. To your point.
What do you think changes the eating experience more? Turning off the lights or wearing a blindfold like that, or going to one of those nude dinners that we have previously discussed?
Okay, nude would for sure change it. Well, nude. The thing is, you just wouldn't even be thinking about the food. You'd be thinking about the pubes in your pancakes. That's what I said in the last one. You're just like way too distracted and grossed out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of people who are easily distracted, I want to talk to you about our good friend Kevin D'Andrea.
Yeah.
Listeners, you might not know this if you haven't been watching the season of Top Chef, but one of the contestants was this French dude called Kevin D'Andrea, who in our draft I rated extremely highly. I think I picked him with my first pick, second overall.
You did.
My reasoning being
Yeah, predictably.
he had done this before. He was a runner up of Top Chef France or something like that. NBC announced that he is getting his own food TV show linked up, like synced up with the Olympics, where he's going to be cooking alongside Olympic athletes. It's called Breaking Baguettes, which apparently is a play on Breaking Bad. My question for you is this, Saul. What's an example of the last time you failed up?
I'm sure there are plenty. I can't think of one at the top of my head. Happy for Kevin, who was like a middling contestant on Top Chef and has now had. I mean, look, it all like lined up for him. He's French. The Olympics are in France. He gets to do a cooking show. I will say I like the concept of getting to know people better, specifically Olympic athletes better via cooking. That's cool. And Kevin's got a little bubbly personality. It's a very. I'm just like, who's this for?
Yeah.
Like who really wanted this? And but happy for him. Happy for the Top Chef brand to stay strong. Right, like he can keep it going. I cannot remember the last time anyone's failed upward this hard. And frankly, like typically Top Chef contestants who go out around the time Kevin went don't necessarily get huge deals like this. So good for him.
They go back to their restaurants and just kind of like keep on keeping on with their lives. This is like a huge deal for someone who went out like episode 5 or something like that. I think for this program, all they needed was like a warm body that had a French accent because like literally like I think it's just a classic example of NBC trying to use all of the sort of IP in its bag to promote the Olympics.
Right,
So NBC owns Bravo does Top Chef. So they're like, okay, we have this Kevin D'Andrea guy under contract for another month. Like, can we add some like goodies to it to make him do this show? That's probably how it happened. I've definitely failed up a bunch in my life. I'd say, every single job I've ever gotten has been failing up in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I was on a presidential campaign that evaporated into nothing overnight, and I got a job at one of the world's biggest tech companies out of that. So
There you go.
that's a
There
huge
you
fail
go.
up.
That counts. Yeah, yeah. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. More on failing up another time, dear listener. But speaking of things that were not failures, I wanted to quickly relive our 2023 visit to EatsCon because Saul, EatsCon is upon us once again this
I
weekend,
know.
June 8th and 9th at the Barker Hangar. It's back. I'm going this year. I'm bringing my wife since you're not going to be there. Well, what's your favorite memory of our 2023 EatsCon experience? And what really would you say to people who are a little bit on the fence of whether or not they should be going to this festival?
Well, first, let me just say I'm so sad to be missing this. It's the best food festival I've ever been to, and you've covered with Brent, I think, in good detail why. In terms of the mix of restaurants they have, the serving size really important, right? Like you get an actual dish from the vendors, and then I think what made it particularly special last year, like yes, the like trying the food that was there was excellent. This was my first time ever having a Simone soft shell crab taco, for example, that fucking crushed. And Kobe's, I think,
Oh yeah.
ton of good food. But the thing that made last year really special was the presence of Tom and Gail and Brooke from Top Chef. That was like
I
the
forgot
really
about
the
that.
yeah. Oh, how did you forget? It was like the coolest thing ever. We got to briefly meet and speak to Gail and Brooke. Man, how cool was that?
I think
Like
I blacked it out of my memory because of how awkward the interaction was.
it was a little awkward. It was just like a ton of fun. Please, everyone, go to EatsCon. I want it to happen like every year. More like just do two a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
I want to go to these. It's so fun. This year's panelists are a little different with Dave Chang and those folks. I also thought the comedy show they had with Rami Malek
That was
and
awesome.
that was really good. Not Rami Malek, the other one.
Rami Youssef.
Rami Youssef. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was a lot of fun too.
A Rami Malek comedy show would be a little bit different.
That'd be interesting, yeah. But it was just like, yeah, it's a freaking blast, EatsCon.
Yeah, this year they got Nicole Byer, who's really funny doing
Yeah,
stand
yeah,
up.
she'll be
So
great.
yeah, it'll be good. I think my favorite food memory was I loved the Shake Shack Found Oyster
I
collab
know.
last year. It was
Yeah,
awesome. And this year they're doing it with Bridgetown Roti.
I know. That looks really good. Those the burger collab looks. Man, I wish I was going. It was so fun.
We got to hang out with our friends, Fat Fuck. That's
Yeah.
he calls himself that, dear listener. We're not just calling him that. It's Fuck with a PH, and you can go follow him on all social media channels. And we saw Jesse Eats. You actually probably hadn't met Jesse at that time yet.
I don't think I had. No, I actually don't even remember running into her. Maybe we. Oh no, I think you like said hi, but no, not until Top Chef Fantasy this year did I really meet Jesse Eats and
get your ass whooped by her.
get my ass whooped by her.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm going. And dear listener, if you're there, please say hi. I don't bite. I'm relatively friendly, right, Saul?
Relatively. Yeah. He's fine. He's fine.
He's fine. Saul, before we transition to our next guest, do you have a shitty Yelp review of the week for us?
I was just thinking about this. I don't know since last week. Do I? I feel like I've been good.
Do you have a positive Yelp review? Do you want to toot your own horn?
The to my own horn is I've been back. So I've been traveling for like a week with Emily, and I'm back on my cooking grind. I am like really like every day of the week crushing like fish with a pan sauce or steak last night with broccoli and from a walk. It was really good. So that I'm gonna keep that going. That's the goal. And yeah, I'm the best. I'm the best. No shitty Yelp review here.
Yeah, no, for once you didn't earn a shitty Yelp review. I think I've been pretty good too. I think I've also been, I've been cooking a lot. I made larb from scratch the other night, which was awesome. Delicious, super easy to make, by the way.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think I've earned some pretty good stars in terms of my personal Yelp review. So that's got to be the most boring shitty Yelp review of the week we've ever done.
Yeah, we should do a better job of like self-evaluating where we've been shitty. I'm sure it's coming.
Yo, if we put our partners on the line for this one, I think they'd have a totally different opinion.
That's right.
They'd be like, no, there was actually, yeah, I can think of just yesterday. Okay, I made this like slow cooker chicken curry.
Cool.
And I completely fucked it up because I thought I'm going to use reduced fat coconut milk instead of regular coconut milk. And it turned out horrifically. And the thing about me is when I fuck up a recipe, I get really pissed. Like I don't really get pissed about a lot of things, but that really upsets me. I just feel like
I did not know this about you.
dude, I get so angry. It's like if I lose at a soccer game or something. Like it just kills me. And so I was going out to a concert, made this in the morning for my wife so that she could have a dinner at night. And 5 hours pass, it's been simmering, it smells really good, but I get there and the consistency is all off.
Yes.
And poor my wife, she's trying to help me in the kitchen and whatnot. And I'm so pissed. I'm like, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. So yeah, I kind of bit her head off there, and then I had to apologize for it. Yeah, she ended up door dashing, and that's fine. That's probably my shitty up review moment of the week.
That's so interesting to know. I want so badly to witness a Luca recipe meltdown now. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that. I've never seen that from you, and I really want it.
Oh, dude, it's a full meltdown. Literally, it's like it's bad. Like I don't even have anger issues, but like it's like, yeah, I don't throw things and like break them, but I will like, I'll scream into a pillow or I'll punch a pillow or something like that, like something lame where I know I'm not going to get hurt, Actually, my favorite move is I very dramatically like throw out the food into the trash, like very dramatically. Yeah. Yo, Saul, last question for you. How do you feel about Checker Hall in Highland Park?
Oh, big fan of Checker Hall. I actually, I was happy that you asked me this question because I love the bit of me just shitting on whoever your next guest is, but Checker Hall, truly great spot. Yeah.
Well, we are lucky that after the break, we're joined by the chef and partner of Checker Hall, Mr. Gabe Kennedy. We'll be right back. Dear listener, my wife recently decided to start eating meat after more than 15 years of being a vegetarian, and being the conscientious consumer that I am, I've been looking for ways to make our household's meat consumption as high quality and sustainable as possible. That's why I'm absolutely thrilled to have found First Light Farms, a small collective of passionate family farmers in New Zealand who are quietly changing the world. Not only are they producing the most tender, rich, and succulent Wagyu beef money can buy, but you can rest assured that First Light's cattle were raised as nature intended, living it up on lush pasture, eating a 100% grass diet with absolutely no grains, no animal byproducts, and no feedlots. The result is the best tasting meat in the game, full of natural marbling and packed with omega-3 fats. If you've ever enjoyed a meal at Ma2 in Beverly Hills, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Ma2 famously sources all of its meat directly from First Light, and the good news is that you too can have First Light Farms meats delivered straight to your door. All you have to do is visit www.firstlight.farm, where you can buy their meats and also sign up for their members-only steak club. Members of the steak club enjoy tons of benefits, including monthly shipments of steaks, access to the highest marble score meats, and, this is my favorite part, access to First Light's full library of proprietary recipes and techniques. Also, you can cook the perfect steak within the comfort of your own home. Buying good steak isn't easy, and it isn't cheap. First Light delivers the highest quality at an incredible deal, and now that I've seen the light, I'm never going back. Visit www.firstlight.farm to learn more and use the code LAFood10 for a 10% discount on your first order. Joining us on the LA Food Podcast today, a man who wears many hats. Maybe you know him as the chef partner of Checker Hall in Highland Park. Maybe you've seen him on TV shows like Selena and Chef or Anthony Bourdain's The Taste. Or maybe you've benefited from some of his company Plant People's plant-powered supplements. Regardless of where you know him from, I'd like to extend a warm LA Food Podcast welcome to Chef Gabe Kennedy. Gabe, how you doing today?
Wow. That was an incredible intro. Great. I'm better now.
I get feedback sometimes that the intros are like, you need crowd noise afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, and here comes the crowd. Whoa.
I'm like flush.
Yeah.
You made me blush.
Well, hey, it's your resume. You've earned it.
Thank you.
How you doing today?
I'm great.
Yeah?
And how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. This is not a first. We've done this one time before so far in LA Food Pod history, but this is only our second time recording in person. And we've got a pretty special location that we're doing it in.
We're recording live from the private dining room in Checker Hall.
Checker Hall. Okay.
Soon to be private dining room would be more apt.
For people who don't know, what is Checker Hall?
We are a neighborhood bistro located in Highland Park, 56th and Figueroa on the second floor in a 100-year-old Masonic lodge. We serve kind of Levantine-inspired California cuisine, playful, exciting flavors that you can enjoy over and over and over again. We strive to be a community restaurant.
We're going to talk all about Checker Hall today, the food, the inspiration, your role in coming in here and really, I want to say, redesigning it and bringing it to another level. Those are my words, not yours.
Yeah.
I wanted to quickly zoom out and learn a little bit about Gabe before we do that, because you've had a pretty interesting journey here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I fancy myself, I suppose I have an entrepreneurial spirit. And so I've had a bit of a non-traditional career, but all of it has been around food and hospitality, kind of life as service, trying to be of service to a greater good or community, and have a ball while doing it. I'm really appreciative of where I am now.
Let's start with Baby Gabe, okay?
Okay.
Where did
Baby
you
Gabe.
grow up? Where did Baby Gabe grow up?
Yeah, so I was born in Portland, Oregon. My parents are alternative medicine practitioners. They sold their practice and we traveled for like a year plus. And I lived in Bali, Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii, and then Canada for a year. And then I would consider my home Boulder, Colorado. So that's where, I got my first restaurant job when I was 14. It was a sushi bar, and Boulder's a cool college town. So I was working at this cool like college sushi bar. It was great. I not only cultivated a lot of skills, but also this community that was sort of outside of high school, and felt like I had this world beyond the day-to-day, high school kind of drama. And I was always been a bit of like a lone wolf. So I really appreciated that. So I started working when I was 14 and continued working through high school. I graduated and decided that I wanted to go to culinary school. So I went to the Culinary Institute of America in New York at the ripe age of 17, and, had a great time. It was an amazing, campus and experience. And I would spend my weekends working in New York, predominantly at this restaurant called Boulder, because there was more going on in New York City than there was in Hyde Park, New York, and the Hudson Valley. And, just have always been inspired by, new approaches to cuisine and continuing to learn. And so I did that all through culinary school.
Gabe, you've given us already a lot to unpack here, okay?
Okay, should we rewind
Let's
and cut
rewind
it? Should we rewind and cut? Let's start over.
Not cut it. I'm just going to go
Let's start over.
and quickly double click, because honestly, everything you just said, I'm like, wait, I want to know more about that, okay?
Okay.
You said you got your first job at 14, 15, 14?
14. Yeah, it was a favor. I used a ski racer, and I asked this kid I skied with. His dad bought this restaurant.
Yeah.
It was this very mediocre Italian place. So I actually misspoke a little bit. The first job I ever had was in this mediocre Italian place. I asked for a favor from my friend's dad, and he let me begin to cook.
Where did your desire to even do this come from? Because most kids at 14, 15, especially in Boulder, would probably be busy, I don't know, skiing, snowboarding,
smoking pot,
chasing
smoking
college
dope.
girls or something like that.
Yeah. I think that my relationship to food developed at a really young age when we were traveling, and I didn't speak the same language as all these kids. Food was this medium in which I could connect with people. So when we were traveling and I was, 4 or 5 years old, I couldn't speak the language. We would connect over food. We'd run to these street carts and we'd eat. I remember very vividly this soup with these obscure meat dumplings. I don't know how much my parents wanted me to eat it, but it was like those experiences that I connected with these kids. And then I was growing up, there's always a family meal at my house. We'd eat dinner every night. My mom and I would oftentimes spend time together in the kitchen. And as I got older, there was various health issues and things that came up, in my family. And a way in which I felt like I could contribute was through cooking. And so it was a way that I could give to the family. It was a way that I could conjure joy for the people that were most important to me. And it also wrapped up, time with my mom, time with my dad, communal kind of gatherings. And it was, whether or not I knew it at the time, what continues to pull me in is this connection between food and the environment and nature.
Yeah.
And I'm just astounded every single time I grow a vegetable or I harvest a vegetable or an animal or something, right? It's just such a blessing. So
it's a miracle.
It really is. And I'm really grateful that I get to like do something with that. You know, it keeps me really grounded, and it's also a medium that I'll never kind of know it all. So my curiosity and thirst for knowledge is ever present. You know, I think that my desire for food came from it being this way I could contribute.
Yeah.
And I developed this like emotional connection because of that. Yeah.
There is a leap there though between wanting to cook, spend time with your mom, and then taking that from
being like
cooking.
professional.
Yeah, being like I want to be in the kitchen.
I mean, as a goof, I think there's probably a few layers. So there's a few more candid layers, which is one was I read Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential. You know, I'm not, admittedly, it was not a huge reader. So like a book that captivated me like that, I was like, I gotta explore this more. And so that's why I really wanted to see what it was like. It seemed like a crazy world in life. And it was, especially this Italian restaurant. Like it was totally bizarre.
2000s.
2004. It was a different industry at the time. I learned a lot. I cried a lot. At that restaurant, that job, I didn't know how to wash dishes. You know, just like very methodical way to do it. And I got put on the dish pit and I crashed and burned. And I was like, I did not sign up for this shit. Yeah. Like I thought I was going to be cooking.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So you said what your parents do, right?
Sure.
Like they were acupuncturists and herbalists, and you know, seemed like they were very focused on wellness. And I assume mental wellness. And you read this book, No Reservations. No, Kitchen Confidential.
Yeah, of course.
And it doesn't exactly paint a picture of like the most healthy environment.
No.
How did your parents react when you were like, I want to go do that?
I actually don't really know. I think they're just kind of unequivocally supportive. I don't think they read the book, you know, but I did.
That's key.
And I think that like it was a great environment for me. I looking back, I was fucked with a lot. Like I was pranked a lot. Like really mean stuff went down. Not at the Italian restaurant, at the sushi restaurant. And I was like, wow, that would not fly these days. I was young and like I was down with it, I guess. But, you know, it was fun and communal, but also kind of gnarly.
Yeah, it was like hazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
How did your friends react in school that you were like, oh, Gabe's going to do this thing, working in a restaurant? Was it like...
I just sort of kept it low key. You know, I still did like extracurricular activities and stuff. You know, ski season came along. I was like, okay, bye. You know, see you later. And it wasn't like I was, you know, working to put food on the table. Like this was purely an extracurricular activity for me, albeit I always kind of wanted to contribute in these ways. And, you know, I still have a really good friend. His name's Alex Hong. He's a restaurant called Sorrel in San Francisco. And we cooked together. So like we took these classes in high school, and then we like competed together, and then we went to culinary school together. And so I had, you know, kind of a partner in crime to like go and make these leaps with. And he was also working at a restaurant. So, you know, I wasn't like alone in it, but yeah, Alex actually really like also kind of inspired me to go to culinary school as well. So, we had a good time, doing that together.
So you go to culinary school, you graduate, you work in the industry at Boulder.
Yeah.
What was that like? This going from the kitchens in Boulder to doing it in
next level. I mean, I would say working through high school, I developed a very solid, like fundamental, especially in a Japanese restaurant, like very fundamental techniques and knife skills and stuff. So I felt like I was coming in knowing what was up. And, you know, culinary school itself is very kind of military style, like everything's clean. And I'm like this hippie dude from Boulder, like learning to shave and stuff. And, you know, like, but then going into a real New York City restaurant was probably the most difficult thing I ever did, to be honest. I learned a lot. I think I learned the definition of hard work. I didn't think I truly knew what that was. I didn't truly understand how intense these environments can be until that experience. And, you know, Chef Boulay, David Boulay, he had 4 restaurants, one on each corner of kind of this very happening intersection down in Tribeca. There was a bakery, there was a, you know, fine dining restaurant, there was a more casual space, there was a French brasserie which then turned into a Japanese place. You know, it was popping, and it was a total scene. You know, I had staged because I was looking for my internship. At 11 Madison Park, and at this place called Crew, and Blue Hill at Stone Barns, and Danielle, and all of these places were just so intense. And I ended up really kind of resonating with the Boulder kind of kitchen and culture and the food, and thought it would be a really great place to learn. Yeah. That's a whole other story of how I kind of got there. I think that was the first time I was like, wow, this is hard work, right? Like waking up, being in the kitchen at 8, leaving at 2:30, 3 in the morning. I remember my paycheck was $219 a week. I was still super young. I was maybe 18 at this point. I was living in like deep Brooklyn, commuting. I was opening the kitchen. I was scrubbing it. I was basically doing everyone's bitch work, right? I was running around. It was a lot. It was really, really difficult. And the level of performance was incredibly high. Yeah. But you kind of feed off of that culture, whether it's appropriate or not. Yeah. I then, however, did end up working kind of through all the restaurants. Because they each had a bit of their own culture, and I learned a lot. I worked under this chef named Christian Delouvrier, who is this old school French chef who was operating Secession. I worked and kind of took on a lot of responsibility at Boulder upstairs, which was really just like a 2-man line. And then in the other corner of the restaurant, we had a 2-person sushi bar. Really like cool, innovative concepts. But I learned a ton. And I think from that experience, I also learned that maybe this is not the thing that I want to do forever.
Did you have a moment, or was it?
I had many moments. I had a lot of moments. Where I was like, okay, this is really cool, but I don't know, like, where does this, like, to what end, right? For what? And I ended up deciding to go to hotel school. So I applied to Cornell and to the hotel school. And I got in, and that really changed my life in an incredible way.
What did it open up for you?
There's a lot of things. I think it tapped my entrepreneurial spirit. It awoke it. It woke that up in me. I think I saw how large the food and hospitality ecosystem and service industry is at that, whether it's, airlines, rental cars, hotels, restaurants, B&Bs, right? Like, I think 80% of the economy is service industry. The philosophy of the hotel school is kind of life is service, and so it's like, how can I continue to cultivate? And I'm a big Buckminster Fuller fan. He's like
the guy who's like,
he created the geodesic dome.
Yeah, the Buckminster Fullerene is also like the chemical compound named after him because it's shaped like the dome.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's amazing. You learn something new every day.
That's the only reason I know.
I feel like as a self-proclaimed, I like Bucky. I should know that. But and sort of like, his philosophy is like always kind of doing these things for like the greater good, and you will like be provided for in that sense. And so it was a game changer for me. It opened my eyes to so many things. I learned so much about, I learned enough about a lot of things. Yeah. I think that's what this school does really well. Whether it's like buildings and facade, or accounting, management, finance, operations, service operations, HR, law, like, you kind of touch on all of these things, and that was and still is integral information to lead and to like be kind of a business person. And so I am very, very grateful for that education.
It's funny you bring that up, because something I've thought about a lot recently, especially, there's been news about restaurateurs who are having to close restaurants. Obviously, conditions are really tough out there right now. And sometimes, it really is just the conditions. But other times you see examples of maybe businesses that have expanded too quickly or too fast. And maybe it's been on the strength of a chef who has an incredible vision, or who has who's really good in the kitchen, but doesn't have that business background or the right business partnership as well. How much has that helped you, being able to have seen both sides of the coin?
Yeah, I think it's like when I was in culinary school, my whole world was food. Yeah, it was everything. I was probably such a shit to go out to eat. Like, I was so critical. And I think it's like there's this thing, right, where I love this. There's this axis, and it's like expertise and open-mindedness. And when you first start something, you start going up, right? You learn, and you're pretty open-minded. And then there's this hump, it kind of like of the danger zone, which is like when you're a novice, and you over-index on what you think you know, and you under-index on being open-minded. Yeah. And so it's like, you think you know more than you really do, and you're not really open. You're a self-proclaimed expert. Yeah. But you really aren't. And then if you can get over that, right, then you start to realize, wow, like, there's so much that I don't know. There's so much opportunity from being open-minded. It's so fantastic to be wrong and to learn and to be able to think again and to reestablish like what it is that I know. And then from there, like the path is just, exponential, infinite in a positive direction.
Yeah.
You continue to learn, you continue to stay open-minded, you continue to, rethink our norms. And so I think at that moment, I was probably a little in that novice section. Anyways, that's just me speaking to like, being a little bit too myopic as far as food. And so the more that I've learned, the more exposure that I've had, I continue to realize, yes, food is absolutely important, but like it is just one piece of the puzzle. And the further I got from that world, because, after I graduated from Cornell, I did a whole bunch of organic food package things. So I was, I lived in Bali again as working for a coconut sugar and cacao company. And I wasn't really involved in food as much. I was kind of separating myself from that. And so I started just like enjoy going out again. And I realized that food is important, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. And so to your question specifically, like a restaurant, a business, a hotel, or whatever, like it's a symphony and it's a dance and there has to be harmony across the board. And it's a really difficult business right now because of, labor, because of regulations, because of food costs, because of supply chain, because of what customers are willing to spend, that the more I take that into consideration, the better it serves me. Yeah. Right. It's not just about the food, and it's not just about the service. It's not just about the environment. It's like you kind of got to hit all the marks in order to keep the doors open. And the most difficult thing to keep the doors open is the actual management, the actual cost controls. Money can come in, but it can easily go out.
Yeah. And it sounds like another situation where admitting that you don't know something can help you, right? Because
totally,
at least know what you don't know.
At least you got to know. At least Yeah. I mean, I think that there is this opportunity. I've always felt this way about teams, where when we focus on the things that we love, and we're very honest about the things we're good at, and we're also honest about the things that we don't enjoy and that we are, arguably weaker in, or there's opportunity for growth would be the nice way of putting it. Then we can actually build a real team. Yeah. Right? So everyone gets to focus on the things that they do great. They get it done better. It's more enjoyable. The outcome is better. Yeah. And then we fill in the gaps with other team members, right? Who know those things. And granted, now labor is a luxury. So you kind of have to, you ideally can check more than one box, but that's what makes a cohesive team, is complementary skill sets. And so what the danger, right, is like being kind of a jack of all trades and a master of none. And the way to, I think, circumvent that is by being very clear with roles, responsibilities, and accountability, so that we can operate as a team, right? Yeah. And that is the truth, whether it's, Checker Hall, whether it's plant people, whether it's, any sort of team. That's
I'm laughing because
the name of the game.
What you're saying is like very relevant. Whether it's my Sunday soccer team in the LA Municipal League, because everybody thinks they're a striker, but somebody needs to be the left back. We experienced this yesterday. That's why I'm laughing. But you mentioned you left to go work in consumer packaged goods.
Yeah,
but the food world pulled you back in.
It did. So that was a pretty wild thing. So I graduated from college. I became a restaurant consultant of this company, not to be named, but it was cool. It was a technology. It was a SaaS company. We'd integrate into different POS systems with 96% of the Vegas Strip and these big operators, also mom and pop. It was really cool, using data to drive operational improvements. But it was just too corporate for me, and I lasted not very long. I became very good at making espressos and cappuccinos because the CEO was really obsessed with coffee. I had a great coffee machine. I was like, what am I doing here? And so I left. I went out to Long Island to the Hamptons. I started this catering and special events business with my buddy Brennan, who was my best friend in college. And we were popping all this popcorn. And I was doing this recipe that my parents used to make for me. And people were like, oh, wow, I love this. And we were like, wait, let's start a popcorn company. So we went to go raise money for a popcorn company. And rather, the guy was like, hey, I'm not going to do this with you right now, but if you want a job working for me and my portfolio brands, I'm investing in organic food, kind of health and wellness. LOHAS is the category, lifestyles of health and sustainability, would love to have you. So we took these jobs, and it kind of took us and took me all over the world, like Indonesia. We did kale chips in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Worked on some early, HPP baby food, and it was very, very cool. But I was always private chefing on the weekends because I wasn't really making that much money, and it was a fun gig. I liked cooking, and it was a challenge. And actually, this girl Beth from Cornell was like, "Hey, these people reached out to me, and they were like looking for a chef, and I just thought of you, and you should like talk to them." And it ended up being the casting people for that show, The Taste, which was Anthony Bourdain's cooking competition. And I was like, hell yeah, like this is the guy, like I idolize this guy. I love this dude. He got me into food. I kind of secretly would like take the Zoom meetings, and then eventually when they're like, okay, we'll have you out to LA, I said goodbye to those two jobs, private chef and private
Before
equity.
you even got cast, you said goodbye to those
They
jobs?
said like, hey, we'll give you a shot at like, auditioning.
Right.
So you got to come to LA. And I was like, okay, guys, I'm going to go do this. Like, I'm probably going to be gone.
Yeah.
So
Because for listeners who don't know and haven't seen the show, I
probably most of them.
hey, I highly recommend doing what I did and going on Amazon and spending $14.99 to buy the entire season. Season 3, by the way, that's the one that gave
Season 3 is a good one.
And
the last season too.
But it's basically like The Voice for cooking, where you've got like
nailed it.
4 judges. Each one sees the auditions, and they have to convince the people who they like to come join their teams.
Yep.
And, if you've seen The Voice, dear listener, you know that it's like a big deal if all the judges want you and are fighting over you.
Yeah.
You had that experience.
I had that experience, yeah. So the judges were Anthony Bourdain, Marcus Samuelson, Ludo, who's, I guess, LA chef. Ludo, if you're listening, reach out.
What's up?
Just kidding. And Nigella Lawson.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Anthony Bourdain, Marcus Samuelson, Ludo, and Nigella Lawson. And I chose Marcus, actually.
That's kind of
it was a
bold
pivot.
decision when you like,
it was a pivot.
Anthony is the guy who got you into it.
I know. So my take was that I felt like I could learn the most from Marcus. I felt like he, at that time, was like the most chef-y chef. Bourdain, incredible storyteller, amazing personality, perhaps not the best chef, right? Ludo, great chef, too chaotic and emotional for me. Nigella, wonderful woman, but a little too much of like a home cook. Yeah. And then Marcus, I was like, this guy has always just crushed it. And I thought I could learn a lot from him, and I did.
What was it, watching the show back, and I think this happens on all the cooking shows, like whether it's Top Chef or like these big competition shows, it seems really intense.
Horrifying. Yeah. Yeah. Horrifying. It was definitely, so like Boulder was like where I learned hard work. This show was the first time I ever felt like I fully threw myself into something.
Yeah.
So I was so afraid. I was so nervous the first thing. I thought I had messed up because I like forgot something on the plate or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's it. I'm done. And then they all chose me. Yeah. And I was like, wow, this is great. Kind of blacked out and made a decision. And quickly I realized like, oh, like I think that I could like win this. And at first, I just wanted to kind of like go and have the experience. I was like, well, if I can kind of share my philosophy, which is about being more connected to, nature and healthy food. I had this whole thing I was doing, still do, and then I was like, oh shit, like I think that I could like do this. Yeah. It was this aha moment, and I like flipped this switch, and I just threw everything into it, like in a way that was, I've done it a few times in my life when the opportunity feels right, but it was really beautiful. Like I was just so focused and committed, and I would wake up at 4 a.m. and I would like meditate every single day. I actually was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, I think I was doing like Oprah's guided meditation, which is like so funny. I think she had like a thing. It was like Oprah. No, it was like Oprah and Deepak Chopra like did a collab. Of course. So I think I was listening to that for a while. Anyways, I was journaling. I was like throwing everything. I would go to bed. Like people would hang out and drink at the bar, and like I did not. Like I didn't socialize. Like I was so to myself. People were becoming friends. I was not. Just because I felt like, wow, like if I could do this, I could really change my life. I mean, it was a significant cash prize. I saw the opportunity. I'm a competitive person, and like when I see the window, I'm like, okay, we're gonna fucking do it. And I did. And I was able to like pay off my student loans, and like I felt like it was really freeing, and it was a remarkable experience. And I would say that the thing that also kept me kind of going through it was that I would throw everything that I could into it. I was going to bed at like 8 every night. It was nuts. It was like
You went full LeBron mode.
living
LeBron's
at
playoffs.
yeah,
like,
totally
literally just like shut off the world.
shut off the world. And I would live, and we were living at the Westin LAX, like at an airport hotel. And then I shut off the world. And then on Saturday, like when we wouldn't film, I would like open up the world, and I would go to the beach, and I would like see, a friend or two who lived in Venice. I'm fortunate to have a good group of friends who were living close, they're living in Venice. And I was just realized, I was like, man, no matter what happens with this, like the waves are going to crash, the birds are going to fly, and no one cares except for me. No one really cares. And so it kind of like leveled it out, right? I was doing everything that I could to throw myself into it. And then I also get a little perspective, like,
it's so
whatever.
funny how that kind of advice always works. I remember, so the co-host of this podcast, a man you don't know, but his name is Father Saul. We used to live together in Echo Park, and I was running my first marathon ever.
Yeah.
I've run a few since
Wow,
then.
amazing.
But it was the LA Marathon, and he was in a different stage of his life, shall we say, and he was, I was waking up for the marathon at 3 a.m., and he was just coming home from his evening.
On the day of the marathon.
On the day of the marathon. And we crossed paths in the kitchen.
Crazy.
And I was so nervous. I was like desperately, I wanted to qualify for Boston. I was so like,
Did you?
all in nerves. Not that time, but I did eventually.
Sweet.
His advice was, dude, nobody cares. Like
Yeah.
fundamentally, nobody cares.
No one cares.
This is going to go on. And it's so freeing to just be like, life is going to go on. You just do you.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like we're so self-important, and like, okay, like this is important to me, but the people that love me are going to love me regardless.
Yeah.
That's like what I care about. So, but yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's freeing. So I that was kind of my thing. I really threw myself into it, and
you won.
Yeah, I did.
Spoiler alert! I'm on episode 6 out of 7 right now.
And I probably therefore. Or sorry, up until that point, I probably had won a lot. I did really well.
Yeah, I mean, so there's this thing on the show where it's like they give you a gold star if you do well or
if you like win the round, you get the gold star.
Yeah, and your buddy Tristan was saying like your apron was like a constellation because you were getting so many stars.
I think I got the most in the history of the show, which in all 3 seasons, but I got a lot. It was a lot, yeah. And by the way, Tristan, incredible cook, incredible chef. Also learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
Like, want to shout that out.
Seemed like you guys were friends.
Until we had to go head to head.
Yeah.
No, and I even so still friends, But yeah, intense, man. It's an intense experience. I did that. I've done a few other competition shows, but I don't know, tough on the adrenals.
You were 23?
I was 23. I was really young.
And you win this competition. You mentioned the cash prize, but I gotta imagine that all these opportunities came to you at that point.
Well, interestingly enough, like it was kind of pre-social media. So it was over 10 years ago, pre-social media. It wasn't like, had that happened right now, I probably would have been a different kind of thing. But I did get fun opportunities. I was young. I was kind of in the mix. I did a lot of consulting work for a while. I was trying to figure it out. Much of which was in Abu Dhabi, which was hysterical. Total trip. Yeah, and then I ended up kind of settling for a bit at Bon Appetit magazine. I was the executive chef of the publishing side, so the kind of like branded content, and sort of helped pioneer the branded videos
that's
at
cool.
Bon Appetit, which was interesting. And they obviously kind of took that and ran. Not that it was like my sole doing by any means, but they kind of like extended it to test kitchen and everything. And then I took a job as the culinary director for a restaurant group in New York. I was kind of like, I came out of the show and I was like, wow, if I could just like do TV stuff, like hell yeah, that would be the dream, right? Like I'm loving this. I'm loving life. Like I just won this thing. I'm like you know, people are like recognizing me. It's like, it's fun. The adrenaline is so addictive. It's so addictive. And that was like something we touched. I mean, that was the thing that we didn't touch on, is like, I was so nervous every single time. I was like power posing.
Yeah.
I like had these biohacks I was working on. I was like biohacking it. It was like,
Hubermaning.
if you like, you know, stand in this pose for 90, I learned this at school actually, for 90 seconds or more, you like, your cortisol goes down, your adrenaline goes up. And like, I would do that before any scene and it would cool me out. It was very cool. But it was so nerve wracking and so intense and like, it was so intense.
Yeah.
It was so intense. I learned a lot from that, but
you know, you mentioned the jobs you took after the show, but it seems like at some point, Gabe, the entrepreneur reawoke.
Yeah. So I took this job as a restaurant, as a culinary director for this restaurant group, and kind of like overhauled, obviously with, you know, some others, the concept. It was like kind of disparate. It didn't make sense. So I kind of honed it in. I was like, look, we're going to go vegetable forward, we're going to go seasonal. So it was like in the age of the quick service restaurant.
Yeah.
And, you know, we took that concept from, I think, 3 locations to like 15 or 16 or something. It was pretty cool. Really like gave it a whole new life. And there was a full service restaurant as well. This was in New York. And it was sweet. It was sick. But I was really just focused on like honing my craft. So I went from like being so excited about like all these shows and stuff like that, and like being on camera and doing these things, to being like, okay, I just need to like focus on cooking and like being really great at what I do. Because that whole idea was just, I was just disillusioned by it. Either, you know, people being like, we want it to feel like, you know, it's your birthday every day. Like when people turn on the channel, I'm like, okay, I guess, like, you know, I could try, you know, but like, anyways, it just like, I was disillusioned by it. I was very excited about it. You know, you get like a lot of rejection. I was like, okay, I'm going to just hone my craft. And so, you know, I was obviously doing that alongside, but I kind of just put that to the side and was like, I'm just going to continue to develop what I do and really put my food out into the world for the first time, which that was, right? Like, up until that point, no one had really ever tasted my food. Like they'd seen it maybe on TV, or maybe I'd like done a blog post or something, and I started Instagram. But that was the first time where we were feeding thousands of people every day, thousands. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put my food out here. I'm going to make the recipes. I'm going to do these things, and learned a lot because, you know, it's a fast casual restaurant, so you don't have great cooks. So it's like, how do you automate things? How do you mechanize things? How do you make it consistent? How do you do big batches, right? So really, really interesting. Anyways, on the backside of that, I kind of saw this opportunity on the horizon. I was on a hike with my buddy, and people were like, what is this thing called? Like ashwagandha, ashwagandha, you know, CBD. And we're kind of like, wow, everyone's like asking about this. Like the right people are like, they want to try it and they don't know where to get it.
And what year is this?
This was maybe like 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, okay. And knowing obviously my background, which I've shared with my parents, where I grew up and all this stuff. And, you know, I use these plant-based modalities to like heal in a variety of ways, but I broke my back as a kid. And so I had all these spine surgeries, and so had Hudson, my business partner. And we're like, oh, we should like bring this to the community. So we started literally like taking herbs and like mixing them in clean paint tins and bringing them to Home Depot, being like, hey, will you shake my paint? And like they'd shake it, and we'd pack those herbs into capsules and give them to friends and give them to people and refine the formulas, and started partnering with like cafes. So we would be like, hey, do you want to do like a CBD latte? And even though it wasn't the most effective way to get it, it was a great marketing vehicle and a great like exposure, and sort of bridging this gap of like functional foods and medicine and like consumer experiences and bring them together. So it was a great way to introduce people. So we went to Brooklyn and Manhattan. We were everywhere. Plant People is the company. Then I got this call from this dude in the New York Times who was like, hey, like I've seen your stuff around. I'm doing a story on like CBD. Do you know, want to contribute? And we're like, of course. So ended up getting just even like a blurb, you know, in this article, and our business was like just overnight, like took off.
And did you have like
crazy
packaged goods at this point?
Yeah, we did. But we were like hand labeling, and we were, you know, doing it all ourselves. I mean, we still do it all ourselves, but just at a different scale. Yeah. And it was like, wow, this is real. And so we really had to establish like, what is Plant People? What are we doing here? And came up with a pretty clear framework, which I think embodies a lot of the things I try to do in my life. But the first is holistic science, which is we create products that really work. And we believe that the whole is better than the isolated parts. So whole plants, whole mushrooms, all these, kind of holistic practices are going to be better received by our body.
As opposed to just like an extract.
An extract or a compound, right? An isolated compound in its, a compound in isolation, right? Which is oftentimes like what pharma is doing, right? It's like the kind of Western mentality. Vitamin C, it's like take vitamin C instead of just like eating things that have vitamin C. There's a lot of,
I hate that.
Right? So it's that kind of modality. And then like if we're going to include something, making sure that we include enough that it's going to move the needle in a positive way. So we use double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trials that are done with a group of 40 or more participants over a duration of 12 or more weeks and include that particular amount. But I digress. So pillar 1 is holistic science. Pillar 2 is education and knowledge sharing, which is just about like informing people to be able to take ownership over their own health in whatever way that is. And like not shoving product down their throat, but hey, like here's a petition to sign for the environment if you're interested, or a tool that you can use for your own, health and wellness. And then the third is regenerative practices. So regenerative organic agriculture, right? We're a certified B Corp. We're like climate neutral. We, work with small kind of biodiverse farms and have a big investment in soil health. And so the first time I really got like intrigued by that was working in New York and tasting these strawberries, tasting these ingredients for the first time. It was like, holy shit, like these are so good. And then you start asking the farmer like, well, what makes this so good? And it's all about the soil. It's all about the regenerative kind of system, which for, in summary is basically investing in the health of the soil as much as the insects, animals, watersheds, waste streams, people, and communities that these farms exist in. So it's very holistic. And so that's our third pillar. So, we exist and operate to create products that are going to help people deal with mood, stress, gut issues, brain health, some of the most challenging things that we experience as people, bring it to them in a delicious, effective format and, be responsible along the way. So
what
that's kind of what we do.
Delicious. Like,
we make gummies now. We've gone through a lot of product iterations, but our main shtick at this point is gummies. So we have maybe six different gummies. We're launching a few more, but they combine mushrooms and herbs and those effective doses. We sell them at, Whole Foods nationally, Sprouts nationally. We're in Erewhon, Lazy Acres, Lassen's, Vitamin Shop, Amazon.
All of the usual suspects.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm really proud of what we've created because, we didn't really raise capital for it in a significant way. We bootstrapped it and it was a very simple, format of just trying to like do something that was helpful. And, it's become larger than I ever really imagined it being.
Definitely way more productive than any hike I've ever taken in terms of like idea.
It was like the best hike. It was a great hike. We were actually like supposed to critique this nature reserve, and believe it or not, actually another CBD at the time, it was another CBD company or health and wellness company was formed that weekend.
No way.
Yeah, by two other people.
It seems like in the year of our Lord 2024, it's an incredibly like saturated space.
So saturated.
You guys got in relatively early.
Super early.
How do you like today?
Pretty
how
darn
do you
early.
Continue to like differentiate in terms of like your ethos and your product?
Well, we've evolved, we've innovated. We don't really have CBD. We don't have CBD anymore.
CBD's passe now.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that coming, right? I was like, okay, this is coming everywhere, and you kind of see the cycles. Like I was in the industry, the organic foods industry, like long enough to kind of see these cycles, and so any brand that was built on like just an ingredient, a singular ingredient, usually that wasn't around very long. Turmeric, right? And then CBD, we're in mushrooms. And so, there's always going to be these waves, but it's very clear to me when the wave is kind of come and gone.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you see like contract manufacturers offering these products. So I'm really proud because we make them all ourselves. But what ends up happening is there's manufacturers and they say, oh, that looks like a good product. Like we can make it. And they put it in their catalog. And so now all of a sudden anyone can buy it. because you're like, oh, okay, I can buy 100 units of this and
Yeah.
put my own label on it. And now I have a business.
Yeah.
There's no barrier to entry. So, our differentiation, our barrier to entry is, we do really like very kind of high-end formulas. We disclose what they are. We don't disclose exactly like where we get these things because, there's certain like farms and places that make really good stuff.
Yeah.
The quality is impeccable. And then we have continued to innovate with like sugar-free formulas with gummies, right? So it's like if you're gonna be eating gummies, like you can't just be consuming so much sugar, right? So, there's a lot of different moats that we try to create, but it definitely is an industry that is like relatively low barriers to entry.
Yeah. One thing I love personally about the Plant
saturation.
People website and sort of a user experience is you can kind of filter it based on like what you are trying to solve for, like
Yeah.
or recovery or something.
Yeah,
like
or the
that.
formats, like whether it's gummies or tinctures or
Yeah.
pills or whatever,
Yeah.
or, capsules, I should say.
I like that just because it speaks
Thanks.
to like putting people first. Like you really
Yeah.
are like, hey,
Yeah.
come to us, tell us what your issue is. We'll try to fix it together.
And like, we're also going to give you the real, like, it's going to help you because the issue with, especially with gummies, is like people don't put anything in it. So you read the back of the packaging and you're like, what's the point? And like my whole thing is like, what is the point? It's a waste of my time and my energy, like to make something that's not actually going to do what it says it's going to do. Not to mention a complete waste of the customer's energy. So, or resources, hard-earned money. So we really try to give like a lot of value and like a really high quality product at a fair price. It's going to be a little bit more expensive than your mass market gummies, but for good reason.
Yeah.
There's a lot more stuff in it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more thoughtful. So anyways, it's, being a part of Plant People and leading that with Hudson continues to be a really incredible thing.
That's still like your day to day, right?
Yeah, I mean, I am working on it every single day. It is. Yeah.
So let's talk about Gabe in LA.
Gabe in LA.
Because you have
Lay it
not
on
lived here forever.
No, I have not lived here forever.
When did you relocate here and what sparked that decision?
I moved almost 3 years ago. So in 2021, not too great.
3 years.
Whatever. Yeah. I've been here for 3 years. So I just really wanted a change. I just really needed a change. Ever since I graduated high school, I lived in New York or New York State. So
I'm so sorry.
I was like, it's a big world out there. You know what I mean? Like I gotta go live, go experience some different things. It's not going anywhere. So I still love New York, but really just like went for it. Yeah. I just wanted a change.
Why LA?
I mean, it's a major market. I have friends here and it was just fitting for a variety of reasons.
When you got here, as someone who, well-versed in food, I'm assuming you enjoy to check out the local restaurant scene whenever you arrive somewhere.
Yeah.
Did what type of spots caught your eye when you first got here?
Yeah, I mean, you got to go with tacos.
Yeah.
You got to go like the quality of produce is just incredibly high. I live in Los Feliz, so there's just this great like circumference of different cuisines, right? I love like living over there because I can like go to Glendale for Armenian cuisine or like go to Little Tokyo, just steps away from Thai Town, or like Little Ethiopia. Like there's so many different pockets, which feels familiar, especially coming from New York. But I just generally don't love just like kind of like American like food. So I was always and continue to be the most intrigued by exploring, different kinds of cuisines, largely because I feel like I can cook the other stuff, right? And like when, like Indian food or Thai food, like it's just a different pantry.
Yeah.
And like I just don't have the pantry. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I could go like go get the stuff, but it's just I like love that.
Dude, I get food. I get that. Whenever I am invited or have to go to an Italian restaurant, I balk because I'm like, I can make this at home.
I know. I feel the same way.
For like one.
I feel the same way.
Of the price.
I know. I mean, pasta is like, you can ask. I mean, yeah, I've always had it's a big pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
I'm like looking at the food costs. I'm like, are you really gonna charge me like $30 for this spicy fusilli?
Yeah.
John and Vinny's, I'm looking at you. Like literally the house that Fusilli built. Like I think it's it's like, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, good for them. It's a good pasta, whatever.
It's a good business.
Yeah, it's a great business. And by the way, like, not trying to throw shade because it's obviously a great business, but like, you know, the chef in me, the knowledgeable person is, I'm like, I can't pay $30 for this.
Mm-hmm.
I get like, you know, 3 ounces of sauce and like a cup and a half of pasta. Like, it's insane.
Something within you just like revolts.
Right. Even if you get like the best quality pasta and tomatoes, like,
Yeah.
it's still just like pasta and tomato sauce. But no, but I actually have come to like learn to love those sorts of things as well.
Sure.
No, I have. I really have. Like, my girlfriend Emily like loves pasta. It's like a big thing. So like, I've come to appreciate it. And like, also, for example, my buddy Alex, like, he is a pasta wizard. And like, when you experience that level of, you know, of cuisine, it's a different thing. But yeah, like, I don't know, like, do I want, you know, like spaghetti and meatballs? Like, no.
Yeah, I don't know, but even the high level stuff for me, I still have, you know, something within me. It's just my grandmother, you know, in my ear telling me like, Luca, don't fall for it.
Right, exactly. Don't fall for it.
Pepe is not supposed to be like, it's not
Exactly.
It's hard. Yeah.
Don't pull the wool over my eyes. But that's like, a lot of people don't, you know, and I think like, it's an interesting thing, right? Like, that is a very food centric way of looking at it. You know, the other thing is like, what's the environment? You know, and like, to, you know, all restaurateurs credits, like, it's about creating the vibe, it's about creating the brand, it's about creating the environment. A lot of people have done that, but that is not my first choice if I'm deciding of where I'm going to go out to eat.
Well, I think you bring up an excellent point, which is that's for me, that's for you. Whereas like, there's people at home who's maybe don't have the knowledge or to make Italian food that way. So they can go out and experience it at these places the same way that you and I are going to Thai restaurants or something like that, right?
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, for sure. I don't think that from my perspective, no cuisine is like so crazy that like you or I couldn't cook it.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like immersing yourself in learning how to do it and then like building the pantry to do it. So, you know, every culture has, you know, their base flavors. Like, in, you know, traditional French cuisine, it's mirepoix, it's the carrot, celery, onion. When you go to Creole cuisine, it's, you know, the onion, celery, and bell pepper. When you go to most parts of Asia, and it's very broad. So say you go to Japan, it's ginger, scallion, and garlic, right? Like, and so there's these like base kind of flavors that you build on, right? And then you get your acidity from, you know, in some places it's vinegars, in other places it's fresh fruit juices, or, you know, an acidic ingredient. From, you know, you get like the salt from soy or salt or miso, or right, like there's all these different kind of mediums to impart flavor that makes for a delicious experience. So it's just about like creating the frameworks, at least for me, creating the frameworks. And I think that that's like what I've always appreciated about, you know, going to culinary school or like learning those foundational techniques, is that cuisine is all about technique. And then like, when you learn the technique, then you can just apply different like ingredients or mediums and to achieve the result. So like, a braise is a braise is a braise. Like, there's kind of a way to braise it. Sure, you can put more liquid or less liquid or whatever, or you could, you know, cook it sous vide or something like that. But like, for the most part, you know, you sear the thing, you put the liquid 3/4, you have a flavor for liquid, you cook it low and slow, you take it out, skim the fat, drop it down, make a sauce, you know, like, that's kind of the thing. So whether it's Korean or Japanese or from the Pacific Northwest, like, it's going to be kind of the same thing. So I've always really appreciated like thinking in frameworks in that way.
And actually, it's reminded me of watching you on the taste when you were trying to impart flavor into things. It's exactly what you broke it down to.
I mean, I'm like to me, there's pretty basic principles.
Yeah.
So it's like, it starts with technique. And if you're going to like saute something, saute it. Like, you're not like shallow frying it. Like, you can't have too much oil. You also can't, you know, not have enough. So the right amount of oil. If you're going to grill something, like, it's pretty straightforward. If you're going to sear something, it's a sear. And, you know, like, just do the technique well. And then when it comes to like creating the bite or the experience, it's like, what am I looking for? And I mean, at the taste, I worked off this framework, which was, I always wanted something salty. So you have to have like a salinity component. You have to have an acidic component. You have to obviously have like some source of fat, and, you know, different fats are going to taste different ways. texture and heat. And heat could be juxtaposition of temperature. It could be, the spiciness from raw garlic, or it could be a chili pepper. Texture is like obviously critical. You don't want to eat just how much better is, an avocado when it's put on toast, right?
Yeah.
Versus
about $13 better.
Yeah, exactly.
Those cafes.
Exactly. The avocado syndrome or something. Like the avocado toast syndrome of like every place now is the same. But yeah, I just sort of like think about it in those ways, and it helps me break down like what I want. I think there's also, another element of, to me, that's like very like, that's like deliciousness.
Yeah.
There is then this other way of looking at food, which is like very intellectual. I think it's like more kind of Nordic and Scandinavian. It's very much about like an ingredient, an experience, and kind of like the purest form of that ingredient. And same with in Japan, right? Like I went to a kaiseki place in Japan. I was so looking forward to this, and it was like the most difficult meal of my life. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was so interesting, but also very challenging.
Yeah. I don't like when I have to describe my meals as challenging personally.
Yeah, no, it wasn't, it was challenging. And I think that can be like difficult, I think, for like chefs to acknowledge at times. Like in terms of just being like real and like vulnerable, it's like, I don't love all organ meats, and I think that there's this like flex that happens with like foodies or whatever. And maybe people truly do love it, but like, I like chicken liver. I don't love like calf's liver. I certainly don't enjoy eating kidney. Heart is like, it's okay. Like it's pretty irony for me. Like, I don't know. Like they're not just.
I appreciate this moment of vulnerability.
Yeah. So I guess by all that is to say, right? Like with food, it's like you can make something just like delicious. I think like Thai, like the kind of Americanized Thai is just arguably delicious. It's sweet, it's salty, it's spicy, it's sour. It's like, it's everything. It's fatty, it's sugary. It's like, of course, it's going to slap you across the face and you're going to love it. That's very different than being like, okay, this is, a noma, like a reindeer testicle with like sea moss or something, like which is sweet. And like, I'm down to try it. And I'm sure it's going to be a really interesting and like memorable experience. But I don't know if, and that, look, I haven't eaten there, so I'm speaking out of turn, but like, I don't know if I would find that like delicious.
Yeah.
I find it interesting.
Yeah.
And like fascinating, like pushes my envelope, pushes my boundaries, which is an incredible thing that food can do.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful and like very important, but it's a different kind of experience.
Yeah. I want to talk about your food specifically because we're sitting here in Checker Hall and I recently had the chance to have a meal here. I've eaten here before. It's in my neighborhood, so I'm very proud to have this place in our neighborhood. Highland Park, represent.
HLP,
Nila. Now, tell us a little bit about how you even got involved in this project to begin with.
I got involved with this through serendipity. I just moved to LA. My friend Shane was like, yo, I'm going to Malibu. I'm diving for lobsters. It's my birthday. Come on over. I was like, okay. I was not planning on this. Rode my bike over to his house, jumped in the car, ended up going to this little bungalow. And we dive for lobsters, where I meet now my partner in Checker Hall, Dalton. And it is, I don't know, I guess it's nighttime. There's about 30 people coming over. We didn't have like the most successful dive. I think we caught 3 lobsters or something. And we had this idea, like we're going to like feed people lobster. So instead I pivoted. We made a lobster pasta, which was a great way to extend it. And it was banging. It was so good. I made some other stuff too, but it was really, really good. And he was like, yo, this is amazing. I have this space. Like I'm kind of trying to figure out what to do with it because we're doing pop-ups. It just doesn't really make so much sense. You want to come check it out? And so I came for dinner, and it was a completely different room, completely different, menu. There was a pop-up going on. And I think we just really enjoyed like each other's company and kind of like the way that we thought and approached business and life and these things. And so I was kind of creating or helping in a more creative capacity because I was certainly not looking at all to like be, operating a restaurant by any means. And like, also I have, other stuff going on. And over time, it just kind of morphed into being more involved and being, really like working on this as partners and being able to, bring my expertise to the table and like collaborate and create. And before we knew it, it was a completely different space and restaurant and culinary experience and service experience. And, it was really important and for me kind of establishing myself in Los Angeles. I'd worked and kind of done a restaurant music venue in Brooklyn. And so I've always been really attracted to that kind of symbiosis or symbiotic nature between those, like a venue and a restaurant. And so this kind of piqued my interest. Now we're here. Admittedly, my girlfriend is also filming a documentary, and I was like, she was gone so much. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I just moved to this city. I'm like spending a lot of time just kind of alone. And like, here's an opportunity with cool people in a cool community in a great new neighborhood with like this kind of just blue ocean to create what it is that we want. And so I just felt really inspired and alive by doing it. And so it felt good. And just like kind of continued to do it. And now we're here.
Thing where it's like, it's a hell yes, you should do it.
Yeah.
It feels like if embodied,
yeah.
Feels like a hell yes. Sounds like it felt like a hell yes.
Felt like a hell yes. I mean, it evolved, right? Like it wasn't, it was really natural. And like the whole time we're kind of like, what do we want this to be? Right. And I think, we want to be a neighborhood place. Mm-hmm. We want to be a place where like the neighborhood can come and dine and like walk in. And is not going to have to wait 2 hours. We want to be a place that is affordable, relatively. Food's expensive, labor's expensive, but like we're going to give value. You're going to come. You're going to be like full on many different levels. It's going to be a great experience. It's going to be flavorful. It's going to be delicious. You're going to be cared for. You're going to be comfortable, and you're going to leave feeling like you kind of got your money's worth. And I want the food to be playful.
Yeah.
I've never liked putting myself stylistically into a box. The concept is, more broad Mediterranean or Levantine, because that's kind of what the origins of Checker Hall were. And we definitely like play in that space, but we use a lot of ingredients and techniques like from Japan or from Asia. Yeah. And just to me, and we're in California, there's so much awesome stuff here. Like, let's just kind of create dishes and plates that are going to be undeniably delicious, and a menu that you can come back and enjoy time and time again.
Like right now,
yeah.
Like people are coming into the restaurant.
Yeah, I don't know. Keep it down over there.
No, we love it.
Recording the pod.
We love to see a thriving neighborhood restaurant in Highland.
Yeah, not knocking on wood, right?
Give me an example of a couple dishes that you're like, this really speaks to what Checker Hall is all about.
So like every table gets our whipped feta. So we season labna and add some feta in there. Top it with kind of a marinated feta. And in the center is this kind of secret sauce, which has kind of a caramelized honey. There's tamarind, pomegranate molasses, brown butter, some urfa chili on top. And like we serve it with this fluffy, hot za'atar coated pita. Like every table gets that. We'll do something that's really like right now our crudo is it's a kingfish crudo with a tomato water and some brunoise, olives and preserved lemons and cucumbers, crispy capers, and like it's really delicate and elegant. And then you can, indulge in a schnitzel, right? Our sort of Tel Aviv inspired schnitzel. So it's like seeds and breadcrumbs or whatever. We brush it with this spiced honey, not hot honey, but spiced honey. Serve it with a trio of sauces, a whipped tahini, a harissa aioli, and a hot chili jam, a slaw and a different salad, a lemon, a burnt lemon. And so it's kind of this like highbrow, lowbrow, serve it on a quarter sheet tray. So like, I don't know. I love like the highbrow, lowbrow thing.
That's one of my favorite dishes I've had recently, period. And I gotta say, one of my favorite experiences I had was not me eating it, but I think I told you last time I was here, I was with my wife, and sitting next to us was just a dude who came solo. Yeah. Sat at the table, got a glass of wine and a big ass schnitzel, and just had the time of his life.
I think it was a martini.
A martini.
It was a martini. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was sick. We get a lot of that.
That is a move right there.
Yeah, it's a move for sure. And then like we'll also, we do this bronzino, like our bronzino is we do what's called a pocket cut. So like instead of a butterfly where it's cut down the belly and then splayed open, we cut from the top along the spine and open up the top. So like the shape of the fish kind of holds, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we kind of like pan roast that and glaze it with this like caramelized coriander glaze. And then in the center put, this like kind of Thai style like herb salad with shaved cucumber and crispy shallots and pineapple and burnt chilies. And like, I don't know what that part of the world is, but it's really good.
But it's the flavor building that you were talking about.
And it's also like, that's what I want. Like, I want fresh.
Yeah.
Especially in California right now. Like, it's getting warmer. You want fresh. Like, and I also don't want just like a piece of bronzino served with salsa verde, because
everybody's doing that.
I can get that other places, So, I want kind of like uniqueness. We have, a little section of the menu that is skewers, and, it's spiked. Yeah. The mushroom skewer is kind of glazed with this chili garlic sauce and served with tahini and salsa verde. Chicken. Our chicken skewer is very popular. We use the tender actually, which is kind of non-traditional, but very tender as it should be. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of a fun thing.
It's awesome.
Fun thing. And we change it, based on feedback and our own personal preference.
So we've talked about this, but Checker Hall has very much become, I'd say it's been this for a while, but certainly recently with the new menu and everything, it's become a real cornerstone of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's a real favorite neighborhood space. In fact, when I was here with my wife, we literally saw someone waving across the room from us, and it was our neighbors. Literally our neighbors.
Oh, I love that.
Here for dinner. That's just where we met up. We didn't even know we were going to meet here, right?
That's so great.
It's a neighborhood spot for real. What about people from across town? What is your pitch to them to come visit?
My pitch to them is come if you want. I don't know, but it's fine. Whatever you want to do. No, my pitch is look, if you want to have a whole Highland Park experience, go bowling down the street, go hit the oldest bowling alley in LA, come in, have a cocktail and a meal, and then come see a show at the Lodge Room. Yeah. You'll have a full on night. It's a big activity night, but it's going to be a really, really great one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, look, it's the beautiful part about LA is it's so diverse, and this is a great little slice. And I think we, really try to keep it real and keep it kind of low key, but also deliver a really nice experience for people. I love an under promise, over deliver moment.
I love that.
It's a good, it's good.
It's great. It's great.
Thank you.
Chef.
And it's cool. I'm glad that we're becoming a thing. I think, we didn't do any, PR. We launched kind of really with the same name that we've always had. We just wanted to build an organic word of mouth. And I'm glad that it's moving in that direction.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where people are recognizing it and people are coming in and people are having good experiences. Yeah. And hopefully we only get better and better.
Hey, it's a great city for word of mouth. I'll tell you that much. So I'm excited to continue to get the word out, because I'm telling you,
get the word out, baby.
Come check that schnitzel out, and everything else, of course. But I'm a schnitzel stan. Look, chef,
get schnitzed.
Get schnitzed. T-shirt. That's a merch I'm giving.
Oh, I know. I've been thinking about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of things that I feel really excited about and really proud of because they kind of serve particular needs or communities. But Checker Hall is definitely the coolest thing that I've done.
Coolest how?
I mean, it's just vibrant and alive. The design is so beautiful. The food is delicious and playful. The service is friendly and comfortable. We have, live jazz multiple times a week. We have this integration and relationship with, the music venue, the Lodge Room. So there's just these waves of culture that continue to lap over the restaurant and make it a really unique and special place within Los Angeles.
Another thing I've noticed about everything that you've done in your career is there's an element of giving back and doing something that's even just bigger than yourself in a lot of ways. How do you see that reflected in Checker Hall?
That's a good question. I mean, I think we wanted to create something that is accessible to the people that live in this neighborhood. It may be something that's more special occasion or a date night place, but we want to bring, value and quality and consistency and comfortability to the neighborhood. We want to be a place that, if there's a issue or you need to talk to someone, you can knock on the door and we're going to answer. Sort of this what Dalton and I have been referring to as community, capitalism. We're here, we're a small business. So yeah, we want to just provide a really great space for people to experience. There is also to me, there's a bit of it is also just to me, this is an expression of creativity.
Yeah.
That is here and respectful of the community and respectful of how we exist within it. But it's definitely a creative endeavor and exploration.
But I love that. And it kind of has to be, because if you think about it, whenever you're creating something, whether for me, it's a podcast, for you, it's a restaurant, and I'm not trying to equate the two difficulty at all. But what I mean is, like, I'm creating something I would want to listen to.
Right.
You're creating somewhere you would want to hang out at.
Totally.
And eat at.
That's it.
And it's selfless, but it's a little selfish, but it's also selfless in a huge way.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that like what's going to make this neighborhood continue to be vibrant and saying it's independent businesses. It's not, seeing, tons of these chains pop in, because then the place loses its uniqueness. And so, I think we're in a difficult time to like operate and keep the doors open of restaurants, and restaurants can be and continue to be cornerstones of community and bringing like a place to gather, a place to learn, a place to, to break bread, and a staple of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, I feel really lucky that we are continuing to kind of be here and provide for, for the neighborhood. I mean, that said, right, like this neighborhood is changing, like there's more wealth moving in, there's more like, the gentrification is very real. Yeah. And, a lot of the employees that we have, like, grew up in this neighborhood, and I have conversations with them. They're like, oh, like, like all my friends, they've had to move. They've moved, and so this was a Masonic lodge where like people used to have like quinceañeras and shit. Mm-hmm. And like, we'll still do quinceañeras. We have for sure, but it is changing. Right. It is, yeah. So I think it's like a challenging thing to like, how do you, and Dalton could actually speak to this much more, cause he also is like runs the venue and everything, but like, how do you continue to be like of service to the neighborhood and like create the space for people to come and experience this thing? And also,
I think it's an important thing you bring up, and it's something we've talked about on the podcast before, because we're seeing it happen all over the city. Yeah. Gentrification. Look, there's never good things about that, but there are right ways and really wrong ways to do it.
For sure.
In terms of like coming into a community.
For sure.
I'm not talking about gentrification specifically.
For sure.
I'm talking about coming into a community.
For sure.
And there are plenty of examples of businesses that just come in and just impose themselves on a neighborhood. Yeah. And then there are others that try to fit into the fabric of a neighborhood and learn how they can sort of become a part of it.
And I think we've I wish Dalton was here to speak more about it. I mean, we try to create the space for anyone to come here. You know what I mean? Like, we have great happy hour specials where you can like come get a $10, crispy chicken schnitzel sandwich and a beer, and you can also enjoy a more kind of like luxurious steak. So regardless of that, I try to bring value. Like, I have always been, when we were talking about it with pasta, like I've always been value aware. Yeah. And I think that can be driven in a lot of ways, right? You can drive it in like quantity, you can drive it in price, you can, drive it in it through experience. And I think we try to do it with everything. I try to keep the prices reasonable, the flavors fantastic, the quantity, generous. And therefore, whether it's a special occasion or like a place that you're frequenting all the time, there's value in it, and you feel it's fair and respectful, and like you're not walking away being like, oh, what the hell was that? So that's like a way in which I think we want to show up. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm looking at like a Jenny's ice cream thing. Like that's Mendocino Farm, Jenny's ice cream, Lilabo. Like, there's a lot of, it's the strip, the block's hot.
No, the block is hot. I appreciate places like Checker Hall and other places that open up in our neighborhood, like, because otherwise every single neighborhood in LA starts to feel a little bit the same.
Totally.
Like, you go to Silver Lake and you have your Salt and Straw, you have your Aesop.
No, it's the exact same.
You have a little Labo and a Jenny's, it's not that different.
Yeah,
it's just, but places like this, you're preserving history as well.
Well, and I would say that that's also a bit of the responsibility, right? So this is a 100-year-old Masonic lodge. Like, there's a reason it's called the lodge room, right? We have the original murals from that room, and the feeling in our dining room is that it's been here for a long time. Yeah, and we want it to be that way. It's comfortable, it's plush, it's a little bit maximalist. It's representative of like a time and moment that hopefully will be timeless in its existence. And that's also just like fun and kind of like irreverent and representative of like who we are, which is, I don't know, we're just like playful. We're playful people that are trying to do something fun and different and respectful and like make good food and create a space for people to come together and like make memories.
And that's a noble goal.
I think that like, as you know, we've continued to grow, like we've cultivated a really amazing community amongst ourselves even, right? We have a fantastic team. We continue to learn from each other and grow with each other. I have a phenomenal CDC Manny who is just, you know, an incredible contributor, our manager Jake, and you know, the whole team, right? So it's just this wonderful opportunity to bring people together and rally around kind of the convivial nature of life, to break bread, to have an experience, to cultivate community externally and internally, to learn, to grow from each other, and operate with integrity.
Look, Chef, you've been so generous with your time today, and I think it's been awesome for our listeners to get to know the man behind Checker Hall, certainly. And I think you've such an interesting journey, and you've got so many different chapters and layers and you know, knowledge and wisdom too. But I got to ask you, when you look back on your journey so far, what are you most proud of?
I think that I'm most proud of just doing like what I'm doing now, really like focusing and continuing to hone my craft and to be able to provide things to the world that are of value done with integrity. You know, like small businesses where like if you have a problem, you can come knock on our door. You know, if you want to say something, like, you know where to reach me. You know where to reach us. So we're a small, you know, whether it's Plant People or Checker Hall or like myself, like it's just a small business trying to do something positive with integrity.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of satisfaction from that. And I appreciate the ability and the opportunity to be able to do it. So,
well, may you long have that opportunity.
Thank you.
Rooting for you.
Hey, thank you.
People are looking for you for Checker Hall online. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so Checker Hall is just Checker Hall. Handle. Mine is Gabe Kennedy. Gabe _Kennedy, but I'm sure it would work if you just put in Gabe Kennedy. Plant People is Plant People.
Yeah.
So
all straightforward.
All pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Well, we'll make sure to put them all in the show notes. But in the meantime, just wanted to say, thanks for having us, Chef.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks to our guest, Gabe Kennedy, for making the time to speak with us and for sharing his story. Thanks to Father Saul, as always, for joining us and helping us chop up the news. If you like what you heard here today, dear listener, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a rating, review. All that stuff really, really helps. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time to do so. We'll be back next week with another epic episode. But if you're looking for me in the meantime, you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at the LA Countdown. That's TheLaCounTDown. You can also find me on Instagram at LA Food Pod. That's LAFOODPOD.